Ready? Oh, my snow cone just arrived. All right, Brandon, we ready? Okay. All right, guys. Well, welcome to the Sugar House Community Council meeting. Thanks again, as always, for taking the time tonight. We will continue to have restrictions. I guess Zoom bombing is still a thing around town, so we'll keep at it. Just a reminder, we're doing our best to represent our entire Sugar House community. We're all volunteers. So we're gonna get right to the announcements. There's a couple of trustees that have termed out and are no longer going to be with us. I'd like to thank Adam Weinecker and Sue Watson. We'll get something in the newsletter next month for call to new trustees. And then Devin Cantwell, our secretary, just moved to Canada to finish her PhD. So we're looking for a new secretary. If anybody's interested, just reach out to me. We're a little backed up on minutes, so I'll get those for August and we can approve all of them. I wanted to show off something. We've been working with UTA to put a sign on a bus bench in honor of Rollins Young. It'll be on 1900 East and 21st South. Can you guys see this? Is it backwards? Can you read that, Brandon?
Not well, but
we'll get a picture out to everybody. This is pretty cool of UTA to allow us to put this on the park bench for the bus stop. We've been working with Lynn Jacobs to do this, so we're pretty pumped about it. Judy did a lot of work for this. A couple of things that we're trying to do. We're working with a landscape architect currently to beautify 1300 East, so the cloverleaf, the exit. We're going to apply for a CIP grant coming up, and hopefully that'll look nice once they're done with all the construction. We've also submitted a letter to create a Sugar House Alliance, kind of like the model of the Downtown Alliance. It's been, I think, submitted to City Council, so we'll wait and see how that goes. And then Maggie and Lori are both out of town tonight, so I'm going to read something from them. They want to congratulate the new muralists that were chosen, Bill Lewis, Chris Peterson, and Evan Jed Mehmet. Join us for a celebration to officially unveil the murals during the Sugar House Arts Festival on Friday, August 13th. Live music, art, and fun with Joy Mob, previously known as the Culture Collective. Thanks to all the trustees who donated. Couldn't have done this without you. We appreciate your support so much. Thanks to Sarah Woosley, who's sponsoring one of the bands on the Tizante patio. And then thanks to all the sponsors and everybody else who donated. The Hanson Sisters Foundation, Salt Lake Arts Council, Sugar House Community Council, England Volkers, Cameron Wellness, Living Museum of Sugar House Art Walk, Sugar House Barbecue, Alta Terra, Sugar House Chamber, the ACE Fund, and then Salt Lake City. Is Mike Bagley on, Brandon? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay. So our treasury report, our US bank balance today is $10,833. In June, we received $2,500 in deposits from some of the bigger supporters of the murals project. We paid artists about $7,000 so far. PayPal balance is $997. Most of that increase from the last month is thanks to our trustees and other individuals in our community who donated. So let's go to Tim Cosgrove. All right, Tim, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Landon. Thanks for having me. I appreciate. First off, I just want to say thank you for everyone's support and supporting the ban on fireworks, or at least respecting it. Because of that, we had really no big fire instances over the 4th of July. And we're going to continue it because of the hazardous conditions. It's just, we're experiencing that unprecedented drought and just drier vegetation, and the increased wind risk would just cause us to, we don't want to have any of those kind of fires that happened to California this time last year. So I appreciate, and the mayor appreciates. I know the Sugar House Park is going to have the fireworks for the 24th of July. And so we encourage people to participate in that if they still want to watch fireworks. I do have a lot of updates for transportation and construction that's going on this summer. As you know, I sent out a link for the Transportation Master Plan Survey, Connect SLC. We're looking also for Community Advisory Committee members to participate in that survey, and that's open till July 14th. There's an update with the local link survey that we've extended until July 27th. Lynn Jacobs has asked me to please ask everyone at Sugar House Community Council to participate in that. He's also done a lot of work with the Highland Drive concept design. And while that's still being just in concept with bare bones, he has put some additional information on the website. And then this Tuesday, we have the Yappy Hour at Fairmont Park. It's Tuesday, July 13th from 6 to 9. And our very own Lynn Jacobs will be there. He's our transportation engineer and covering several of the projects, including Local Link, the TMP, the Transportation Master Plan, and the Highland Drive rebuild, and UTA will also be there. I also want to give an update for asking everyone not to drive on 2100 South and 300 West tomorrow. There's going to be heavy lane closures. This is part of our 300 West redevelopment, and they're putting in 2 bike lanes and replacing water lines and storm drains, utilities, and that kicks off right at that intersection on 2100 South. So if you want to avoid, at least for a few days of major construction work that's going on, please try to take another route, and that starts tomorrow morning. Trying to think what else. I can include links. We get some questions, a lot of questions on the drought and xeriscaping in the mayor's office, and I'm happy to include the links. We're working very closely with public utilities watching this. And also right now there's we have about 26 boards and commissions, citizen boards and commissions in Salt Lake City. And there's a lot of positions that are open and up for application. And so I'd like to invite you all to participate on a board or a commission if you're interested, and check out one of those and see what strikes your interest. And then we really appreciate your community involvement with the community council and want to extend that in the city. We can't thank you enough because we can't do it on our own, but that's about all I have, Landon.
Tim, can you put that link in the chat for people to look up all the boards?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I like the shirt color tonight.
Oh, thank you.
We're pretty pumped to bring the fire department back. Let's see. Bob, you ready?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if you know or not, but we've been having a pretty action-packed fire season so far. Just last set alone, as you know, we work a 3-shift system, A, B, C platoon, and just our last A platoon, we had 3 working fires in Salt Lake City, which is kind of unheard of. When you hear one that's happens ever so often, it's kind of like, wow, as a working structure fire, we had 3 in one set. So that was kind of a big deal. In addition to the other fires, the one on Ashton and the one that was the UFA fire off of Highland and Richmond over there. And then Subsequently, we had another working fire that we assisted, South Salt Lake, in our mutual aid agreements. That was our fire last set. So it's been busy. Our firefighters have been challenged with the heat and fatigue, and we've had to pull fire guys off the line pretty quickly, or quicker than normal, just to heat exhaustion and refill those spots with our firefighters at the ready. So we've been having to prehab, stay hydrated, stay cool when we can, and just make those contingency plans when we need to, and deploy those resources as needed. So let's see. Other than that, we've had a few kind of interesting things that have happened. We've deployed some physicians in some of our responses in the city, just to kind of have an extra added resource on the streets with us, which has been kind of cool. We have 2 medical directors that are our medical directors for the fire department, and we've been deploying them in the fields on medical emergencies. And it's been nice to have them see our side of the work that we do, and for them give their expertise and input where they can, and the service delivery and QA and all that kind of stuff. So it's been really good. The latest stats I have, unfortunately, are through May. So as of the end of May, we had year-to-date total of 908 total calls, 40 fire calls, and 170 medical calls. Salt Lake City Fire Department, the tally as the end of May, we've got 12,918 calls. So we've been busy already this year. As far as COVID goes, over 80% of our fire employees have been fully vaccinated, and I believe that number's actually increased for the past couple months. We still are, deploying our resources with COVID in mind. We treat all medicals as potential COVID exposures, and we wear the appropriate PPE. We do things like we ask if the patient can be brought outside. We ask the other bystanders or family members if they can keep a safe distance from us. And we've also are continuing to suspend our participation in public and in-person activities such as station tours, school visits, etc. So we're still being diligent with that, and our numbers are going down as well. So we're just anticipating for a potentially busy fire season. We're trying to do our best to mitigate the risk that's out there in the foothills and in the occluded interface that we have even within the city. And I applaud Mayor Mendenhall and our fire marshal for making that hard decision to put a ban on fireworks in Salt Lake. And I think the reception of that has been good and positive for us. I think people realize the inherent danger with fireworks. And me coming from California, I mean, we banned fireworks a long time ago, and eventually it was kind of like, well, that kind of makes sense. And people just kind of went with it, and encouraging people to go to the professional fireworks displays at the parks is what I think is a good route to go. So anyways, we just want to say thanks to the community for just being safe, keeping yourselves and your family safe, and we look forward to welcoming the public back when we can to our facilities, and I hope hopefully not too distant future. So with that, is there any questions for me?
Hey, Bob, do you mind taking all the questions in the chat? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I'll do my best for sure.
Your typing skills are okay?
Yeah, they're decent.
So are mine. All right, thank you. Thanks for coming, and welcome back.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Brandon, we're gonna unmute Senator Davis. Gene, are you ready?
Thank you. Not much. I have one issue I wanted to bring forward, and that is to honor Roland Young. And I'd like the council to consider and to support perhaps contributing or helping us create a dedication of a bus bench in Sugar House I'd like to look at Highland Drive. I'm willing to go to UTA and see if they would donate the bench. And perhaps the council could do a plaque that would actually honor Rollins Young and his commitment and his service to the Sugar House Community Council. He was one of the longtime members. When I first joined the council back in 1980, he was a member then. And of course, we put ourselves together back in 1979. So the council has been together for a long time. And up until his death, he was an active member. So I'd just like to ask the council to consider that and maybe open it for discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Gene. We have the plaque. We got to work on the bench. And we're hopeful that it'll be right up by his where he used to live on 1900 East. So with your help, we'll work with UTA and figure something out. But they've been pretty amenable so far.
I think Judy Short is trying to get our attention.
I can unmute her.
Need to unmute.
Go ahead, Judy.
There you go. I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. Gene, we're doing the one bench up at the corner of 19th East and 21st South where Rollins lived.
Right.
So that's this one. I would love to see one on the plaza that has a bronze statue of Rollins sitting on that thing. But I don't have a clue. Don't laugh, Landon.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that would be perfect. I don't have a clue. Maybe the art committee can help us figure out who might do it and what it might cost. But
Well,
I think
I was,
it's fabulous.
if I might, Rollins was actually chairperson of the council
Right.
at the time that the Sugar House Beautification Project was put together. And that was the rededication of the plaza. Of course, it was increased a street, but which is now the whole plaza. But that was really something he thought would be a great thing to have happen.
So that's a perfect place for a statue of him. So maybe we can work together to figure out how to make that happen.
Thank you.
In the meantime, we'll have the one up on 19th East.
I think Amy had something to say. Did you not, Amy? Councilwoman?
Let's see. Go ahead, Amy. I think you're unmuted.
Yes, thank you. So I was actually just talking with some UTA representatives about this today is Wednesday, so last Wednesday, and happy to help. I know that they have some weird rules about plaques on the actual bus stop itself, but I don't think that are those weird rules that are included in the plaza themselves. So happy to help in any way. Rollins was an inspiration to me when I first started running. So, and first got on the council. So happy to do whatever I need to do to help ensure those things, both on the 1900, and I would love to see something on the plaza as well.
So think about where we can find some money. The
It's
bench,
always about the money.
Always the tricky part.
the bench isn't that expensive, but you know, if we had a statue made of Rollins, that would cost a couple of bucks.
I think we can come up with some ideas, Judy. Let's talk.
Okay.
Thanks, Gene. I'm going to unmute Senator Enomoto to also chime in.
Yeah, I'm in too. I know we did a bench and a thing up at immigration too, but I'm in to do whatever. I loved Rollins too, and he was just such a great supporter and always willing to do a lot of work. So whatever we can do to help, this will be good.
You want to give an update while you're on?
Sure. Okay.
Welcome, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I always have trouble getting in, so I had to do a new password and everything, but I got in, and I was at Sugar House Veterinary because my dog was spayed today. So one of my dogs. So anyway, it's been a day. So yeah, I just wanted to say, maybe you've had this update because wasn't here last time. So how we are have pockets of money that we have and with new funding. So the rest of the federal funds is going to be distributed during our general session. And and I just wanted to update on fireworks too, and thank everybody for, you know, our fire officials and everything. I did that bill on fire restrictions with Dunnigan, you know, 3 years ago. And I just met today with Chief Peterson, and we have some ideas on things that'll, I think, will be very helpful within that, but adding a few things. So we're going to meet. We meet every year with the stakeholders, and we're going to do it again. We don't want municipalities to feel like they're breaking any laws or anything. So I know that everyone's supporting what the municipalities are doing this year because of the extreme drought and everything. And boy, the human caused fires are great. And so anyway, we got past a little bit this time. Hope the 24th works too. July and August are kind of, we still are working on legislation and things, but we're taking kind of a break, mostly for our Office of Research and Ledge Research group, because they've been working straight, and we've kind of been working since, I don't know, for the last sessions with protests and like all of you. So it's been a little crazy, but working on a lot of legislation. A lot of them have come from actually constituents in the Sugar House area, and I will love to share those with you later. But so we will meet with the fireworks stakeholders after the season. I'm working on some things with Salt Lake Public Utilities on the sewage systems, and I do have a bill that I had last year on police reform for duty to intervene and report. That's going very well with all the stakeholders. I don't know, Devin, did she leave already? I miss her. So I don't know if you realize how valuable she's been to me on campus safety issues, and she's a phenomenal individual, and I miss her, but we're keeping in touch, and she's working on a few bills with me that she had. And I do have some drought and earthquake and different things, but I'll share with you at a later time. And we will be quite busy. I know Senator Davis knows that because he's a part with that, but redistricting will be coming up. And so that's another reason for a break, because after that, we're going to have special session and all kinds of crazy things. So I'm just here to support. We met the new Salt Lake City superintendent. He sounds wonderful. I think that's going to be a new beginning for us and really great. And anything you need, please know that we're here for you. So if you have any questions and need my newsletter or whatever, just let me know.
Can you answer any questions that are in the chat? Would that be okay if you stick around for a minute?
Okay, let me look at the chat.
We're gonna have Detective Meinzer come on now, and then if you want to answer those or leave your information, whatever you want to do. Thanks for coming, and
Okay.
thank you, Jean, for coming as well.
Thank you.
All right, Detective. The floor is yours.
Okay, I accidentally clicked mute right exactly as you clicked unmute, so my bad. Okay, thanks for having me. Glad to be here. So I wanted to go through real fast just some notable statistics over the last month. So in June 2021, I wanted to talk about thefts / larcenies. So this last month, we had 62 incidents in the whole entire District 7. When we compare that to 2020, there was 111 last year. So we are significantly lower than we were last year. If we compare it to last month, there were 77 last month. So we're looking pretty good. I think a lot of that has been, we've been getting a lot more outreach from citizens to us to try and report things that they do see. So thank you for those people that have been reaching out. Our burglaries this last month in June there's only 6 that were reported. In 2020, there were 16. Last month, there were 25. So once again, thank you for calling us and looking out for folks that shouldn't be in the area, watching those specific behaviors of car handles, walking up to doors, things like that. I did want to talk about the family offenses. So in June, we had 16. And what that means is it's domestic violence, family members, spouses, partners, people that live together. It can be arguments that are non-physical. It's not against the law to argue with your partner, but if it does get physical or you break things, that is where it is a problem. So we had 16 incidences. Sorry, can't talk today. In June. In 2020, we had 12, and last month we had 17. There has been an increase across the entire city as well as the nation. I think that a lot of that does come from the stress with COVID and everything like that. So we're just trying to reach out and help, educate everybody. There are many resources out there that are not police officers that can help kind of intervene and help be able to get everybody talking instead of arguing. So if you're interested, I can get you guys any information you'd like about that. So let me put in the chat. I have a link for stats. If you want to dive deeper into stats, you're always welcome to go to this link, and you can call me, email me. We can talk about it. I will also put in the bicycle registration link as well. And then real fast, I wanted to talk about, I'm trying to educate everybody on kind of the police department stuff and how we do things. So for this month, I want to talk about challenges for the police department. So one that everybody kind of has been talking about lately is our staffing. We did get raises. Thank you, City Council and the Mayor's office. They're able to work with us and give us raises. I think that's a great step. Another thing that I've been hearing is we're looking at our top 5 calls for service every month, and City Council is also trying to work with us to see what can we do to reduce those or get those handled by other than the police department. And I think on some of those, there's ways that can be done. So that way we can kind of have us be dealing with things that we need to be there instead of, driving through and people aren't there anymore, things like that. We're currently hiring. If anybody is interested, you want to be a civilian employee or you want to be a police officer, I'll put the link in the chat, and then I will put my information in the chat as well. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to talk on the phone, text, email. And if there's any questions, I will answer them in the chat.
Dean, do you have a question for him?
Yes, my comment more than anything, and that's to point out once again that porch piracy is now a felony in the state of Utah. And if you know any neighbors or anyone else who is experiencing porch piracy, you need to call the police department now because you will get a response.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. That is one big change that is very important for us because it changes the priority of the call. So there's been a lot of reports on Nextdoor about things like that. Just so everyone's aware, the police department doesn't get to see the posts on Nextdoor. So please don't forget to call us and let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. But I don't see Mark Isaac quite yet. So let's go to Julia with Spin Scooters.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. It was saying I couldn't unmute myself. Hey everyone, my name's Julia Wunsch. I'm from Spin Electric Scooter Sharing. Some of you may be familiar with me and our shared scooter program in Salt Lake City from previous presentations I've given to Sugar House Community Council. Landon has been a great partner for us thus far. So I'm just here to give a few updates on the scooter program today. If it's all right, I'd like to share my screen, and I'll try and make this quick since I know you have a lot of other things to get through as well. Would it be possible to enable screen sharing?
I think he's working on it.
Okay, no worries.
Brandon, you good?
Awesome.
I think you should be able to now.
Yeah, looks like I can share my screen now. Okay, is that working?
Yeah.
Great. So again, I'm Julia Wunsch from Spin Electric Scooters. just going to give you a brief update on this scooter sharing program in Salt Lake City. As some of you may know, we recently, the city of Salt Lake recently selected 2 vendors for the next permit program in the city of Salt Lake. So previously we were operating since, I believe, April of 2019 in Salt Lake under a pilot program in the company of a few other scooter operators. And then in March or so, or in February, the city of Salt Lake RFP program, Spin and a few other companies applied, and Spin was selected along with one other company called Lime. So just want to give a brief update on some of our commitments that we've made as part of the scooter program. Just a bit about Spin. So we were founded in 2016, and our mission is to give people the freedom to move. And we were actually acquired by Ford Motor Company in 2018. So we operate as a wholly owned subsidiary of Ford, making us a bit different from other scooter companies in that we're not venture capital backed, and we have a stable financial backing as well. We're live and operational in over 80 different cities and universities across the US, as well as in Europe and the UK. And the cities that we operate in typically have a population of 400,000 or more. And we usually maintain an average fleet size of 920, depending on the city that we're in. Sorry, I'm having some issues with slide transitions. There we go. So just a bit about the program overview and our commitments for Salt Lake City. So each operator, both Spin and Lime, were permitted for 1,250 e-scooter devices. We're currently deploying around 1,000, so we'll be scaling up in the near future once our operations come to full capacity. The goal there is to make sure that we're not just adding a ton of scooters overnight, but that we're doing it in a way that blends with the community and that does not block the public right of way or cause any issues for pedestrians or sidewalk users. A bit about our operations. So we have a full W-2 in-house operations team. Unlike other companies that use gig economy workers, all of our staff are W-2 full-time employees. So they're fully benefited and they're trained properly on city regulations and codes to make sure that we're aligning with the Salt Lake City Department of Transportation's regulations. And our warehouse is located near downtown at the Utah State Fair Park. In addition, our daily operations include charging and repairs of all the scooters, and that's done using all of Spin's company vehicles in the company warehouse. So we're not using personally contracted or owned vans. All of our vans and materials are done using Spin-owned materials. And then in addition, just a note on our sustainability practices, we're utilizing swappable batteries in Salt Lake City to increase the reliability of our operations and also enhance the sustainability of our operations because it helps our operations team reduce trips, and also the batteries last much longer than they did previously. So it reduces waste as well as vehicle miles traveled. And then we're also working with Ford on an electrical vehicle rollout. So eventually all of our Spin-owned vans will be electric vehicles rather than gas-powered vehicles. And then just one other note. So we have a program, a technology called Spin Insights Level 2, and we'll be running a small pilot program, which will include sidewalk detection technology on a small portion of our scooter fleet. So the goal there is to reduce improper sidewalk riding and parking, make sure that if a scooter is improperly parked or it's knocked over or blocking the public right of way, that the Spin team is notified of it immediately and that we then can rectify it as well. Some of you may be familiar with my colleague Otto. He runs our operations on the ground in Salt Lake City and he's great. He's unfortunately not feeling well today, but I'll share his contact information later as well. Just a bit about our safety and infrastructure commitments. So we're planning to continue our ongoing partnerships and working with local businesses, as well as various partners to implement slow speed or no ride zones. And then we've also created a Spin text line, which enables residents to reach out to us directly and contact our local operations employees for scooter relocation requests, rather than having to go through the company-wide support messaging, which is also executed on very quickly. This is just another way that enables Salt Lake City residents to contact our team on the ground and have an immediate response. Additionally, we're also adding Spin Hub charging stations, which are electric scooter docking and charging stations. So we've committed to adding 5 Spin Hubs on the public right-of-way in Salt Lake. And then we'll also be creating 100 preferred parking spots, which essentially provide discounts towards riders' next rides with Spin as a way of encouraging parking in specific locations. So riders who open the Spin app will see designated zones or parking spots throughout the city based on conversations that we're having both with the city of Salt Lake, but also with community organizations like yourselves to ensure organized parking. And then also help provide riders with a fun little financial incentive as well. And then on the streets infrastructure side, we've committed to installing and implementing 2 streets projects in partnership with the city and with local organizations. If you look behind me, this was actually a project that we did in partnership with Bike Utah and Team Better Block in Salt Lake City. It's called the Spin Space. So we'll be working on our streets infrastructure team will be working with community organizations in the city as well to identify different areas where other streets infrastructure projects could benefit safety and placemaking for the community. And then we also are implementing an escalating fine and citation system for users who are found to be riding or parking improperly. And so while we're still working with the city on what this will look like, this will include eventually a public database where community members like you all can actually see the number of riders that we sent warnings, as well as fines and citations. And even in some cases, hopefully not very many, have had to kick off the app for improper parking and riding. And I think that just really speaks to our commitment to making sure that this is a seamless program and that we're not having scooters blocking the public right of way or causing issues for folks. And then lastly, we're providing riders with a helmet discounts and are actually in the app, riders are able to take a selfie at the end of their ride. And then we have our support team on the back end reviewing all those pictures. And so folks can actually get a discount off of their next ride for wearing a helmet. So just one way of implementing safety and rewarding folks for that. And then in terms of community outreach, so some of you might be familiar with Spin Access, which is our program that provides 50% off for users who are lower income in Salt Lake City. And so in addition to that, we've also implemented for this new permit program, a program called Access Zones. And so individuals who start rides west of I-15 will receive 10% off of their rides. And that was a decision that we made in partnership with Richard Holman, who some of you may know from the West Side Coalition. So we're really working to make sure that this program is not just accessible for some folks, but for all residents, regardless of their financial background or socioeconomic status. And then additionally, I'm working on continuing to develop and establish and maintain partnerships with local community organizations and developers. And so we've committed to holding at least 12 safety and equity focused engagements per year, which on average is 1 per month. But speaking from all the planning I've been doing, I can tell you that we've got like way more than 12 slated for the next year. And I'm really excited to have an in-person presence in Salt Lake City on an ongoing basis. You can see some pictures here from different activations we did at Halloween at the Galavan, as well as this bottom right picture is from the Streets project that I was showing you is behind me. And then also an in-app message that I created in partnership with the Disabled Rights Action Committee. So lots of really great work going on. Also, if some of you are familiar with the Open Streets events that are happening in partnership with the Downtown Alliance, that's something else that we've been involved in, and we'll have a presence there throughout the summer. And we're also making sure that folks are parking and riding scooters accordingly in that zone as well. And then just wanted to send my contact information here. I'll also ping it to you in the chat box. I manage community partnerships for Spin, as I mentioned. Here's my email address. And then for all operations concerns or requests or deployment issues, anything that comes to mind, my colleague Otto is fantastic and he's really responsive. So I'll send both of our contact information in the chat. But thanks again for the time, and let me know if you have any questions.
Do you mind answering the questions in the chat? We've been having some Zoom bombing in Salt Lake, so we don't allow people to talk.
Oh, no worries. Sorry, I was sharing my screen.
So I'll let you answer those, and we're gonna see another project, but we'd love one of those charging stations in Sugar House.
Yeah, definitely. It's great to hear that.
Okay.
So I'll answer the first question from Christopher.
Yeah, if you could just answer in the chat, would that be okay?
Oh, sure. I don't want to take up too much.
I'm sure you have good typing skills, so
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you.
No worries.
Thanks. Thanks for always keeping us involved.
Of course. Thank you for keeping us surprised as well. I appreciate it.
Okay, let's go to Mark Isaac. All right, Mark.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Landon.
Yeah.
We've sure spent a lot of time together, the Sugar House Community Council and I'll tell you. Just as a quick update for everybody, we have had a work session on the Dryer Snell Grove location with the City Council. There will be a public hearing next Tuesday, July 13th. And then there will be potentially action taken on Tuesday, July 20th with Salt Lake City Council on our rezone and master plan change request. And then we've just recently finished a design review work session with the Planning Commission. They've asked us to go back to the well and change things up pretty dramatically on the building to break up the length of the building and some of the facades and changes, more specifically along Commonwealth. So we've been working on some design iterations, some changes. It's taken us a little bit. The big ask was to try and make it look like multiple buildings going down the street rather than just big one monolithic monster along Commonwealth. The uniqueness of the length of it is just because of the funky shape of the lot. So I'm going to try and share my screen. I am a long ways away from you guys right now, and I only have my iPad with me, so I'm going to try. And if I fail, I'll present it to the Land Use Committee, providing Judy lets me show up again. It'll be about the 50th time on this site, I think. But anyway, so I'm going to give it a whirl. Okay. Let's see here. Bingo. Can you see it?
No.
Okay, then maybe I can't.
Strike
do it.
one.
Strike one. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I know how busy your calendar is. I'm hitting the share content as I was told to.
I'm gonna miss watching stuff like this.
Yeah, I'm not. I hate it. Yeah, excuse my language. iCloud Drive. Where is it? Give me a second here.
Take your time, Mark. No pressure.
Yeah, I know. One last attempt here. Yeah, you know what? I can't get it up and Adam. I have sent the package to you, Landon, and Judy and the Land Use Committee. I sent it a week or so ago. I'll resend it.
Okay, we
And
can
then-
share it with
and then-
everybody.
And then what we can do is we can post it. And then what I would suggest, here I am asking for people's comments for about the 1,000th time, and I'm sorry. It's a long duration through the city's approval process these days. But we'll post it, and then I'll be available to answer questions on the Land Use Committee meeting later this month. And then those of you that want to see it or would like to understand more of what the ask is, again, please attend the City Council meeting on the 13th for public comment, and then tentatively scheduled July 20th for action. What we've done, just as a recap, is we've broken the building into 3 buildings instead of one, with interblock walkways from north-south from Commonwealth to 2100. So as an example, you could walk from Commonwealth just west of Estes Pizza and the Wings and the little bar along the west flank of Sugar House Barbecue and cross the street and go to Campfire Lounge through the middle of the block. And then a little further west, you'd be able to walk through building 2 and building 3, 2/3 of the way down the building, walk up to the liquor store that'll be inside our building on 2100 South, and again, walk across the crosswalk area and get back to the Campfire Lounge, actually. Lots of interesting ways to get across the street. So thanks for your time. Sorry, I couldn't show the screen. It's
Hey,
just.
Mark, I think I can share my screen. I
If you
found
can,
your,
I can walk through it super fast.
okay, I found your stuff. Hold on a sec. Let me see when Brandon gives me.
I shouldn't need to give you anything, Landon. You have co-host. You should just need to hit share screen down at the bottom and then select the panel or wherever it's open on your computer.
Okay. All right, Mark.
Okay, scroll up a few slides. Let's go. We'll just go through. I'm not going to bore you with parking plans and layouts. Keep going, keep going, keep going. A couple more. Okay, one more. Now let's zoom in right here, Landon.
Ooh, now you're asking a lot.
Well, if nothing else, we can just take a second and I can kind of demonstrate. In the
Okay.
middle of your screen right now, you'll see a building on the right that's behind Albion Financial. It would be across the street from the entry into the Deseret Industries off of 8th East. You can see, perfect. You can
Okay.
see that we've built 3 separate buildings. They all have the masonry facades, different colors. And what we're trying to do is just show different types of product, different types of units, and then different types of buildings. So it's not just one big monolithic building. Keep going, a couple more. And then here on this rooftop deck on the very close end, on that one on the top, we're going to do a community garden. And then that grassed area on the very west flank of that building is actually a dog walking park, so that an individual coming home from work at 11 at night wouldn't have to leave the building to walk the dog if they weren't so inclined. So kind of fun little feature there. And you can see that that building's only 4 stories, and then the market rate middle building area would be 5 stories. Keep going. And then the next slide, real quick, we'll just do 1 or 2 more. This is showing the mid-block walkways. This one is through the west building down towards DI and the little Smitty's Pancake House. And it walks, we are looking from Commonwealth, looking directly north to 2100 South. These planting plans that are all demonstrated, those are actually the planting plans that we presented to the city. And we've rendered the exact plants, the exact plans, so that people got a better sense of what we are trying to do. Let's go through 1 or 2 more, and then I think we're probably pretty good. This is your very east flank. Those units that you see in the distance there are micro units. We're building 47 micro units on the east building, some affordable housing and affordable units on the west building. And then we're going to do market rate in the middle building. And you can see the mid-block walkway. And this would walk you through the block into Sugar House Barbecue's parking lot. And then if you just go 1 or 2 more, there's how we're going to take the sign out of the public right of way and keep the old Sugar Town Snell Grove sign. You can see that there's we've engaged that front entrance. That will be commercial space, retail space. Click 1 or 2 more, Landon.
Mhm.
This is the liquor store frontage. This is pretty cool here. We're building a great big 12,000 square foot liquor store on the main floor. On the west side, you'll drive in next to Albion Financial to the right. And if you drive straight towards our brick building that you can see in the distance on the right-hand side of the photo, there's 80 parking stalls underneath that building at grade, at surface. So for once in our lives, we won't have a slammed liquor store parking lot in Sugartown, Sugar House. So we're pretty excited about that. Scroll 1 or 2 more and I'll call it good. This is the last one. This is where we're putting, this is coming out of Smith's Grocery onto 9th East. Looking straight down Commonwealth, you can see the Snell Grove. These 2 retail places on the ground floor of 9th East, and then you see a little upstairs patio for the micro unit residents. Kind of looks over the Wasatch Front towards Sugar House Park. Those 2 retail places on 9th East, we are working with Danny Walls and Salt Lake City RDA on a master lease that Salt Lake City RDA will control that art space. And that art space will be gifted to constantly changing artists in our community because we've lost so much affordable retail space in Sugar House. That's probably a good place for me to have a drink, Landon. I hope that helps. I'll go to the, I see Gene's hand up. Gene.
Thank you. Question I have is how are you going to protect the housing there and the garages that back onto Commonwealth?
Protect them. I'm
Garages
not
in those
sure I
small
follow the question.
houses. There's a whole community that's located right there behind the old Dunford Bakery.
Yeah, and what we've done is we've moved that building further north. We have a 6-foot sidewalk, then we have a landscape strip and little front yards. Those are gonna be ground floor walkout units onto the south side onto Commonwealth. And we're gonna engage and landscape the entire north side of Commonwealth. Commonwealth is a bit of an alley right now, a little bit of a service lane to the backs. We're trying to engage a better pedestrian connector and a better field down there. We can improve the north side. It's difficult for us to do any improvements on private property on the south side. By no means, Gene, will we end up with Rodeo Drive, but it's sure gonna be a hell of a lot nicer than it is now.
And I understand that. It's just how are we going to protect that very, very tender housing situation there on Commonwealth? And thank you for
Well,
that
we've been
answer.
real sensitive to it. We still have those building setbacks. They'll be on the first floor, ground floor units, there'll be an additional setback. When we get to 30 feet, we have to push the building back, similar to all of the zoning requirements that are in Central Sugar House. So we're actually moving the building further away than what that 35-foot ice cream wall was on the property line for 50 years. We're going to make it a lot better. I can't make it perfect with, residential units stacked up there. The positive is those are mostly garages and those houses all face south. We're very sensitive to it. There was a lot of comment from the Planning Commission, and we've made tremendous design change to make the street better. We will have some profile set renderings. They're being done now where we'll be able to demonstrate showing you looking down Commonwealth, what the street will look like and how far the building's set back. We've been very sensitive to it. It is our only single-family residential boundary on the 4 sides of the block. And we've done tremendous care and design to make it better. I think we're going to be about 70 feet away by the time we get those setbacks to that house, the width of the road, the sidewalks and the landscaping from those backyards and those houses. So I'm hoping that that's sufficient.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that answer. Thank you, Landon, for letting me
Of
ask.
course. Hey, Mark, do you mind hanging around and answering a couple of the questions in the chat?
I'm heading that way right
Okay.
now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you. Canadian border's closed. It's awesome. I'm 4 miles from the Canadian border and they can't come in.
Have a good night, Mark. Thanks. All right, Ashley.
Hi. All right, I'm going to share my screen. One sec.
Do you want to introduce yourself? And
Of course.
thank you.
So my name, let's see, is that working for you all?
Yep.
Okay, one sec. Okay, so my name's Ashley Bailey, and I am the Education and Permits Lead for the Salt Lake City Waste and Recycling Division. And I wanted to thank the real Landon Clark for inviting me because I always enjoy talking trash with the community. And that's what I'm going to be doing in this presentation, just going over our services, what we offer, and hopefully clearing up any confusion you might have about recycling and composting. So who are we? We employ 55 people comprised of drivers, container maintenance crew, and we also have an education team. And what are we doing out there? Well, we service 45,000 homes, businesses, and multifamily units weekly. And this amounts to about 4.6 million curbside bins picked up a year. So it's quite a lot. And then looking at our waste by the numbers, what are we bringing in from those cans of yours? So for garbage, it's about 3,630 tons a month. And that's kind of hard to wrap your mind around. So I always love a good analogy. And this time I've chosen the Statue of Liberty. So the Statue of Liberty weighs 156 tons. So each month, Salt Lake City is bringing in 23 Statues of Liberty into the landfill. For compost, we're at 1,454 tons a month. And for this one, I've chosen an elephant. An elephant weighs about 5 tons. So this is 291 elephants that we are composting, but try not to think about that image. For recycling, we are bringing in 775 tons a month. And so for this one, I've chosen the blue whale. A blue whale is the largest animal on Earth. And so we are recycling about 5 blue whales every month. Also try not to think about that image. But also something to keep in mind with recycling, a lot of recycling is very lightweight. So 775 tons might not seem like a lot, but when you think about the volume of all that packaging, it turns out to be quite a lot. So where is this all going? I just wanted to share with you one of my favorite quotes. There's no such thing as a way. When we throw anything away, it must go somewhere. And that somewhere in Salt Lake City apparently is the land of your state bird, the seagulls, which is also known as the Salt Lake Valley landfill. So this is where your garbage specifically is going. And this is an aerial shot of the landfill from above. And some of you may have been here before. This is located at 6030 West California Avenue. It was opened in 1991. And it's approximately 550 acres. So there are some things that should not be going to the landfill, and this is by no means a complete list, but some things I did want to highlight. So hazardous waste should not be going to the landfill. This could be things like paint, motor oil, pesticides, herbicides, things like that. Also electronics, compact fluorescent light bulbs. And the reason being for this is that they have mercury gas in them. So those light bulbs need to be disposed of properly and not sent to the landfill. Also tires, any hot or burning materials, those of course will burn your garbage can or melt it. And I have seen that before. It's always fun to see. And actually in the Salt Lake City ordinance, it's written that you are not to put any recyclables or yard waste into your garbage can. And this is because Salt Lake City has a goal to be zero waste by the year 2040. And zero waste doesn't mean that we aren't going to be creating any waste, but it means that our goal is to compost and recycle as much as possible. And we can't do that if we're throwing our recyclables and our yard waste into the landfill. So turning it over to compost and where that goes to the green waste section that is within the landfill. So by contract, all of your brown yard waste cans in the city are processed into compost. Now, this is tested quarterly to make sure that it's safe enough to be sold, and it's certified by the US Composting Council. And you may have already purchased some compost from the landfill, but if you haven't, it's good to know that it's $15 per cubic yard, or they also have a program called Buck a Bucket, where you can bring in your Home Depot 5-gallon buckets, as many as you want, and fill them up, and they're just $1 each, which is a pretty good price for compost. So what the compost process looks like out there is it's piled into windrows. And a windrow is a very technical term, which means a long line of material that has been heaped up by wind or a machine. So that's what those are. And they check these temperatures weekly. They have a long thermometer that's about 3 feet long that they can stick right in there. And temperatures for compost have to reach 130 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And this will kill off any bacteria and also any weed seeds that might be in there. Now, if your compost pile doesn't reach 130 degrees, it's actually just considered mulch and it's not considered compost. So it has to reach that high temperature. Compost actually has to be 40 to 60% water by weight as well. So they also spray it with water periodically. And they also turn the windrows to get oxygen in there. And they use a windrow turner machine, which is also another technical term. This presentation is full of many technical terms. But yeah, that's what they use, and it gets the oxygen in there. One of the last steps is that it's ground through a trommel screen, and this will separate any of the garbage that's been left in there from the compost so that it's ready to be added to your garden. So materials that we accept, unbagged yard waste, such as leaves and grass clippings, any natural or untreated wood, such as tree branches, weeds. Again, with that high temperature, those weed seeds will kill off, so you don't need to worry about that. Eggshells, vegetable scraps, tea bags, and coffee grounds as well. You just want to be careful with tea bags because a lot of them are actually made out of plastic rather than paper. What's not accepted in your compost, any meat or dairy, any paper products, any sod, dirt, rocks, or concrete. This might be a little confusing why you can't put dirt in there because it's your yard waste can, but they're actually looking for material that will turn into soil, not material that's soil already. So that would actually go in your garbage can. Flower pots, you just want to separate the flowers from the flower pots, no animal waste, construction wood that's been treated with any kind of chemical, plastic bags, and also any biodegradable or compostable packaging. A lot of times we see this in cans, and it can be deceiving for the consumer, which is understandable because written all over it, it says biodegradable, but those actually have to be processed in an industrial facility where the temperature and the humidity is monitored. And that's not the kind of facility that we have out at the landfill. So switching over to recycling and where that goes. So Salt Lake City is the hauler of your recycling, meaning they are the ones that pick it up, but they are not the ones who process it. So we have a public-private partnership with Waste Management, and we use their material recovery facility to do all the sorting and baling of the recyclables. Now, there was a new one that was built just last year in August of 2020, and Waste Management put in $17 million to bring this online. It's 50,000 square feet, and they actually used an old structure of the transfer station that was there, so that was great. They didn't have to build a whole new entire building. And something that's great about this is the technology is newer, so they have 9 optical sorters, which really helps getting us a cleaner end product, which is more valuable on the market. And it's able to process about 700 tons of recyclables a day. So for your recycling materials that are accepted, plastic is the big confusing one. But what you can recycle is hard plastic containers. So regardless of which number you might see on the bottom of that, you should just pay no attention to that and just think to yourself, is this a hard container? And also, you know, it should be empty. And the reason that it should be empty is that we have single stream recycling in Salt Lake, meaning you can put all different materials into your bin. So if you imagine you have, you know, a ketchup bottle half full of ketchup, you're done with it, you put it in your curbside recycling bin, that goes in the truck, it gets smushed, and then it gets all over paper and other products, which would be contamination for those paper products. So that's why things need to be empty. They don't need to be pristinely clean, but just think to yourself, is this going to get anything else in my container dirty? And also keep the lids on the container. And the reason being is that they're just too small to process if they are on their own. So they need to do the buddy system here. They have to be attached to something. What's not accepted for plastic? There's so many plastic products when you go to the grocery store, it's really hard to know, and a lot of them have the recycling symbol on there. So yeah, this is a long list, but I will just say, you know, no bags, wraps, or films, which extends beyond plastic grocery bill or bags into various soft plastics is kind of how we've described it. So hard plastics, yes. Soft plastics, no. A few things that we see repeatedly are a lot of, people have been doing a lot of online shopping because of COVID. So bubble wrap or those air pockets that come in your cardboard box, those need to be removed from your cardboard box. If you buy drinks by the case, that case wrap that surrounds the cardboard box should be removed, but the cardboard is okay. And we're going on about 3 years now where we've said no bagged materials in your recycling bin. And the reason being for this is that at that material recovery facility, there's no one there working to open up those bags, and they can't be certain of what's in those bags. So if they see that on the line, they're just tossing it off to the side. I've seen them do it. It's just going to the landfill. So we don't want your efforts of recycling to go wasted. So please just keep everything in there unbagged. Some more plastic products that are not accepted: styrofoam, any plant-based compostable plastics. These are made to be composted again, but they would have to be in that industrial facility, which we don't have. So don't put them in your yard waste container either. These for Salt Lake City would just go into the garbage and not the recycling. But I know it's deceiving because it looks like plastic. Some vinyl, we see a lot of air mattresses, garden hoses. Those are not the kinds of plastic that they are able to process or that there is a market for. No PVC pipe, no kids' toys. A lot of times those are a mixed material. And a lot of times it's a very low grade plastic, which they don't want either. So switching over to paper, materials that are accepted: cardboard, newspaper, junk mail, mixed paper, and envelopes. Even if your envelope has that plastic window in it, that's okay because it's a small enough amount of contamination that they can handle it. What's not accepted: basically anything that's dirty. So those greasy pizza boxes aren't going to be accepted. What I tell people to do is check out your lid. And if your lid is clean, you can rip that off and you can save half of the box, but that greasy cheese part needs to go in the garbage. Also, shredded paper, that's not accepted because it's too small to capture. If you just think about it going from your bin to the truck to the floor of the facility, they're not going to be able to capture it. Receipt paper, most receipt paper is actually thermal paper. And that means that it has a layer of plastic in there so that the lasers can read it. And because that layer of plastic is in there, it's not recyclable. And then also any paper towels, napkins, tissues, or toilet paper. Even if these are clean, and that being that paper can only be recycled so many times, and each time the fibers just get shorter and weaker. And so these products like napkins, they're pretty much just at the end of their lifespan. They can't turn it into anything else after that point. Also not accepted for paper are cartons. So whether they are Tetra Paks, which is actually a brand name, a trademark name, or Gable Top, both of these would not be recyclable because they either have a plastic liner or they have, with the Tetra Paks, plastic and aluminum and the paper. And they just can't separate those materials from each other. So those would all just go in the garbage. Coffee cups, in order to hold that hot liquid, they also have a plastic liner on there. So the cup itself is not recyclable, but if you have a paper sleeve or the lid, those would both be recyclable. For metals, we accept all steel or aluminum cans, and again, empty, but you can leave the labels on there. At the end process, they will just get melted, so that wouldn't be a problem. And then clean aluminum foil, as long as it's big enough to make it to the end of the line. So I would just ball that up if you have several pieces of foil. Not accepted for metal, batteries, or any kind of scrap metal. They really only want cans when it comes to metal. So no like barbecue grills, which I've seen in a can. I've seen a wheelbarrow in a can, aluminum siding. These things can all go to a scrap metal recycler, but you would have to take it there yourself. But the bonus is that they often pay you for what you've taken. For glass, glass is the one product in Salt Lake City that is source separated, meaning that you can't throw it in with your regular recycling. And the reason for this is it often contaminates the paper that's in your recycling. So when the glass breaks, it gets mixed in with the paper at the end of the line. And then if a buyer knows that you accept glass recycling in your single stream recycling, they will often offer you a lower amount because that contamination will be in there. So you have different options. You all just got this great one at Sugar House Park with the artist Josh Schuerman, who did this beautiful mural that matches the mountains in this picture, pretty great. So we have in Salt Lake City 23 drop-off locations. The closest ones for Sugar House, again, Sugar House Park, and then also Fairmont Park has one as well. But if you're lazy and you create a lot of glass recycling, you can set up a curbside bin. So you would get a 35-gallon bin, it's $7 a month, and then they do a once a month pickup. And you can set that up through Momentum Recycling or with us at Salt Lake City as well. And I'll give you that information at the end. So accepted for glass, any bottles or jars of any color. Broken bottles and jars are fine because that's what happens to it anyway. And again, labels on this are okay as well. Not accepted, any kind of ceramics or porcelain, Pyrex, windshields, light bulbs, windows, mirrors, all that good stuff. These things often have different melting points, so they can't process it the same as they would a pickle jar or a beer bottle. For harder to recycle items, these are things that you can't put in your curbside bin, but they are still recyclable. You just have to take the initiative yourself to take it to the right place. And in Salt Lake City, that's going to be the Household Hazardous Waste Facility, which is run by the health department. And this is within the landfill. So if you're a resident and you have some old paint, you have some electronics, you have some antifreeze, and you need to take it somewhere, you would bring it to the Household Hazardous Waste Facility. You would go through the weigh station at the landfill and let them know what you have, and they wouldn't charge you. And then they would just direct you to this facility and you could drop it off. So we also provide a call to haul service, which some of you may have known it in the past as neighborhood cleanup, but now they've switched over to call to haul for a couple of years. And the benefits of this are that they have year-round scheduling, so you can schedule it at your convenience, but you can only use it once a year. And with this, you can do electronic waste recycling, tire recycling, refrigerator disposal, and also mattress and box spring recycling. So if you don't want to drive it out to the Household Hazardous Waste Facility yourself, and you have a lot of things, you can just call and make an appointment, and we will come and pick it up for you. So again, just some materials that I accept, furniture, appliances, green waste, but the green waste has to be no longer than 5 feet, no large stumps, electronic waste, again, automobile tires and bicycle tires. I believe they will only do 4 at a time, and these need to be removed from the wheel. You can also put the wheel out there and they will take it to a separate place, but they need to be removed from each other. And then if you have any windows or doors, that is also something that they would pick up. Things that are not accepted, any kind of loose item, those would need to be bagged or boxed. No dirt, sod, rocks, concrete, or asphalt. Any tree stumps, again, that are larger than 12 inches in diameter. No construction materials such as drywall or plaster. No broken glass. No household hazardous waste, and nothing that's going to be flammable or explosive. And then I just have some general curbside rules for you. Salt Lake City has a 3-foot rule for the curbside bins. So they need to be 3 feet from each other and then 3 feet from a car. And obviously, you know, there's some places in the city where this is impossible to do because parking is so tight. But if you can get them separated a little bit, the best as you can, our drivers are going to be able to pick up those with no problem without hitting any cars or knocking over any cans. And then also break down your boxes, and this applies to branches as well for your yard waste can. Nothing should be, the lid technically is supposed to be shut for pickup, but they can handle anything that's like a foot above the lid. But if you have cardboard boxes that are like 3 to 5 foot above the lid, the issue is when they go to dump it, it will overshoot the truck and end up on the other side in the streets. And also really tall boxes at the recycling facility, when it's going down the conveyor belt, it will hit a 90-degree angle where it drops. And so if that box is too long, it won't be able to drop and it will jam up the line. So there's kind of 2 reasons for breaking down your boxes. And then cans should be out by 7 a.m. Technically, you can put them out the night before, and then you can leave them out 24 hours after pickup. But after that time, to make your neighbors happy, you need to pull those back in. And also, again, just overloaded bins. The trucks can really only handle picking up a can that's about 300 pounds. And also, you're going to damage your can if you put anything in there that's more than 300 pounds. So if you are putting dirt, sod, or rocks in there, we ask that you just fill it about 25% full. And that way they're able to dump it without any issue. Again, lid closed, nothing too tall. And everything needs to be in the can for pickup as well. So if you have extra bags or if you have extra cardboard boxes and those are sitting next to your can, the drivers don't get out of the truck for safety reasons to pick up anything that's outside of a can. So if you want it picked up, it needs to be inside of your can. How am I doing on time? This is like the last slide pretty much. Some additional services that we have, if you don't know about, if you have a lot of leaves or a lot of grass clippings, you can request free of charge an extra compost can, which you can keep for 8 weeks. And you can get 2 cans for 4 weeks. So those are some options that are nice to have during leaf season. Holiday tree collection, we collect those typically for the whole month of January. You can cut them up and put them in your yard waste can, or you can just leave them on the curb and we will come and pick them up. We do see a lot of trees that are left whole in the yard waste can, and ultimately we will dump it. And I've spoken with the driver before and they said, the easiest way for everything to fit better in the truck is if those Christmas tree tips are down in your can. So I just always say to myself, like, ski tips up, tree tips down, and it should all work out a little bit better. We offer broken can replacement. So if your lid is broken or the can is demolished, you can get a new one at no cost. We pick up illegal piles and you can always call those in when you see them and we will address those. We also have a can to curb service, and I think this is really nice. If you happen to break your leg or you have an older family member and you can't take your garbage bin out to the curb every week, we will do it for you. Whoever is on that route as the driver will take it from wherever it is at your house, and then once it's dumped, they will take it back. So I think that's a really nice service that we offer. Okay, so thank you. This is our office phone number. If you have any questions about anything I went over, this is my personal email. If you want to email me, and I will answer questions in the chat as well. Check out our social media on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at SLC Green. And then just some good resources to keep in mind: Momentum Recycling, the Salt Lake Valley Landfill, and that household hazardous waste facility.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. And there's a bunch of questions in the chat, so if you don't mind typing, that'd be great.
For sure.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Let's have Taylor Anderson. Is he still on, Brandon?
I'm on.
Oh, his sweet mustache.
Thank you. It was a COVID baby, and now it's a COVID here to stay. Am I able to share a screen too? I haven't tried yet. Yeah, I am.
Yeah, we'll work on that. Do you mind introducing yourself? And
Sure. Yeah, my name's Taylor Anderson. I actually am an editor of Building Salt Lake. If anybody reads that resource, we write about things in Sugar House all the time. Not here to talk about that. Mark had a nice update on Sugartown. I was excited to be in the audience for that because there was some news for me as well. I was also stoked about the glass recycling and all recycling. I didn't know you could recycle tinfoil, but now I do. So I am slightly greener now. No, but I'm here on behalf of Sweet Streets. It is a street safety, street design oriented advocacy group. We are technically a nonprofit. We're affiliated with Heal Utah. If folks are familiar with that environmental group, they are our fiscal sponsor because a lot of the things that we're working on are transportation related. That's our #1 source of particulate matter, #1 source of pollution in the valley and nationwide. So kind of fit the mission for Heal to have a group independently working on transportation related issues and making it a little bit easier for folks to opt to travel outside of a car. So generally what we're doing is we're a group of volunteers. Nobody's paid to do this. We just kind of meet after work and get together, discuss some different issues, some different kind of city-led things that are already happening, are going to happen. The city has that bond, a lot of money to pay for improvements to our streets. And so a lot of things are going on and we discuss those and the type of design that we'd like to see, but also we take up and create kind of our own initiatives and try to start the conversation around certain changes we'd like to see in the city. So basically what we're trying to do is unite different groups, you know, people who walk, people who bike, people who take transit, people who drive, moms, dads, parents, you know, kids, and just trying to give them safer places to travel outside of the car. So I'll get a little bit more into kind of some specific projects that we've been focused on in the past year. We were founded in the middle of COVID last year, so got real familiar with meeting on Zoom and eventually would like to move off of the computer. But anyways, that's what we're doing. A couple of things that we're focused on before I talk about one of our key initiatives right now. Street reconstruction, I know you all are familiar with that, and I think Lynn is here to give some updates on some Sugar House happenings, but 900 East, that was a big focus of ours, trying to get the design right. And what I mean by that from our perspective, things like lane width, things like crossings, things like the design of the bikeway, whether there's going to be enough room on the shared path for both pedestrians, people in wheelchairs, people on bikes, etc. How are we going to actually make this thing work? Because all of those things add up to whether there's going to be high-speed traffic on that road, whether there's going to be actual meaningful connections, if it's going to be like a working route for people to travel in whatever means that they would like to travel. So 900 East was a big one, and we were excited to see how things ended up. Also excited for some of the changes that have already happened in this blink of an eye, it seems like, on Highland Drive, and more to come there. But just anytime a street is reconstructed or even maybe restriped, there's always an opportunity to kind of advocate for a safer design speed for that segment of a road. And that's what we've been focused on. So a few different projects in Sugar House. Traffic calming, I know you have a great transportation subcommittee in Sugar House. And so forgive me if some of this is a double up, but the city is actually working on reviving a traffic calming program for the first time since 2003. For a number of reasons, we haven't had any formal way to slow down cars, and yet it's the #1 complaint into the transportation division every single year. You know, you'd think it's potholes or construction complaining about one of those two things, but actually high speeds in neighborhoods is the #1 complaint into the transportation division year after year. We're focused on that too, and there's going to be updates there. So basically, those are city-led things that are going on, and we just want to amplify it and unite a voice on behalf of people who want maybe slower speeds, safer speeds in neighborhood, and more options for traveling around the city. One of our own initiatives is called 20 is Plenty. It's all around the speed of cars in neighborhoods, and that's kind of what I wanted to focus in on tonight. As you've probably heard a lot, I've been talking a lot about speed because speed of cars has a lot to do with outcomes when, not if, but when there's an incident between a driver and a person outside of a car. And just generally when you're in a neighborhood, when you're on a street that has lower speeds, you've got like objective and subjective benefits, you know, those benefits that you can quantify, like the scary and bad stuff about how often somebody will likely be seriously injured or killed if they're hit by a car. But also the subjective things like it's quieter, there's less pollution when cars are traveling slower. It's just more pleasant, more walkable. You're free to roam, that maybe you're perceiving less danger and therefore are allowing your kids to start roaming on their own at a younger age. So all those things kind of add up, and it all revolves around speed. And kind of wanted to highlight one of the objective things, and I hate to be the scary guy, but this graph really does bring the point home. It's a little pixelated, but it was gets the point across better than any others. This is from the AAA Foundation, so generally a group that's encouraging people to drive more often. They also see 20 miles an hour as the most logical, the safest speed for cars to be traveling when they're among people for this reason. I mean, when speed goes up, it's exponential, the likelihood of serious injury and death. There are other graphs that go into the injury component, but just basically the outcomes are worse off the higher speeds go, and it's really like a bell curve. It goes up really quickly. So that's why we're really focused around speed. Speed has everything to do with safety. We're not naive. Well, let me just back up here real quick. So 20 is plenty is actually, we're making a request into the city council that they vote to change the default speed limit in Salt Lake City on most neighborhood streets from 25, which it is today, to 20 miles an hour. That's what the campaign is. It's a pretty simple change. We wouldn't be the first and we won't be the last to do it, but it's based on well-established global guidance. I mean, hundreds of countries have already gone this direction. Other cities in the US have already gone this direction. There's plenty of evidence that backs up that even if you just change the sign, we talked about how, you know, when you redesign the street, that's going to make more meaningful impact on car speeds in neighborhoods. But even if you change the sign and change a little bit of enforcement, you can have a meaningful impact on the drivers that are going 30, 40 miles an hour in front of homes and schools and elsewhere in town. And it's just an overall good outcome. So basically that's what we're doing. What we're trying to do is we created a petition for any individuals who want to agree with this thinking. There's more information on our site. You can go look it up, but we have a petition out there you can sign. With that petition, if I can toggle over, does this change over for folks? Landon, yeah, cool. This is the petition. You can actually ask for a yard sign. We are printing these and delivering them free of charge if anybody wants to show their support. And you can just sign that there. Our goal is to deliver the petition to the city council at some point, maybe in the early fall, with the hope that maybe sometime after this busy election season, we will ask them to vote to change the ordinance. A couple key final things, if I've still got you. This has to do with city-owned streets. We have plenty of state-owned roads in town, like State Street, 7th East, 2100 South in certain parts, Foothill Drive. This is a city campaign. It's not a state campaign. This wouldn't affect those, nor is it that logical to necessarily have that blanket across every road in town. So right now, the ordinance says there's an employee in the transportation division that can raise or lower the speeds depending on their judgment. So we're going to default to the experts just like the ordinance currently does. We just want to change one digit in the ordinance and say we value safe speeds and safe neighborhoods. And so if you agree with that, we're asking anybody here tonight to go sign the petition. We're going to share it in the chat. Request a yard sign if you'd like to. Follow us on social media. And in time, if the board would like to, we're actually asking community councils to discuss it internally, to discuss it with the community, and potentially sign on as to the 20 is Plenty Coalition as the Sugar House Community Council. So not asking that tonight, but in time, if you'd like to, feel free to discuss that and sign on. We'd love to have you join the other listed groups that have already joined. So that's it from me. I don't know if any thoughts, questions. I see a couple of red dots, but
that was great, Taylor. We're going to have Councilwoman Amy Fowler on next. If you don't mind answering some of the questions in the chat, that'd be great. That was great.
Thank you for the time. I hope to be back in another capacity sometime soon, but thank you so much.
We'll have you back for Building Salt Lake at some point.
Yeah, I'd love to be here.
Okay, thank you. Amy, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry, hold please. The oldest old main in my house is a little anxious always when I start talking on a Zoom meeting. So he's wandering around. Well, thank you everyone for having me. This was a great meeting, so incredibly informational. I do want to say if anybody in the Sugar House Community Council wants to have a a tour of the waste management MRF, the materials, I can't remember what MRF stands for, but the recycling plant. It's quite unbelievable. It's the most state-of-the-art MRF in the country from waste management. And it is fascinating. And so I'd love if we want to have a Sugar House Community Council field trip. I am sure that I can help set that up because it really is a neat thing. And so I really appreciate the conversation we had regarding recycling, and I learned a lot, and all of our trash pickup that the city does. I did want to talk a little bit about the budget. We did finally finalize a budget. It took a little bit longer than expected for a lot of different reasons, but I am happy to say that I believe the city is moving in a step that it's been needing to move for a while, and that is to adequately compensate our city workers. We worked very hard to compensate all of our unionized workers in a meaningful way, including our police department and our fire department and our labor department with AFSCME. We're also hoping to look at continuing to compensate unrepresented, meaning non-unionized workers more adequately as well. But I think one of the things that COVID taught us is how incredibly important our city workers are and the things that they do. One of the things that I have heard over the last 18 months is about response time from our police officers. And as everybody has been watching the news and hearing the reports, we've lost a lot of police officers. And as a capital city, we continue to ask our first responders to go above and beyond. And I think we as a capital city I don't think that we were fully recognizing what we were asking and also compensating appropriately for that. And so this year we made an effort to make sure that we changed that. And we did. And we will continue to stay committed to ensuring that our first responders are compensated for the amazing, hardworking job that they do. Part of that is also with the budget. I advocated for and was able to get a $2 million set aside for an alternative response model. And Detective Meisner sort of mentioned this, that there are calls that our officers just don't need to go on. And the calls that they go on that they don't need to be there for, take away from the calls that they need to be there for. And when you're understaffed in the way that we are, and you're overworked in the way that our police department is, then we need to look at other ways to fix that. And so we're looking at a pilot program for an alternative response model. We've set aside $2 million for that pilot program. We will be working with the team that did our audit of the police budget so that they've done police budget audits throughout the country. They're very well versed in alternative response models. And so they'll be working with us on how we should look at this and implement this. We'll also be working with the Racial Equity and Policing Commission in where this alternative response model thing, whatever it might be, should sit. Should it be in the police department? Should it be in neighborhood, community and neighborhoods? Where exactly should it fit the best? A lot of things. And one of the things that I found really interesting when Captain Bob was talking from our Station 3 is, I didn't get the numbers exactly, so he can get mad at me later, but there were 140 medical calls and like 10 fire calls for the fire department, right? And we see very similar things from our police department. And so it's very important to me that we take some of the pressure off of our police department and figure out other ways to handle some of the non-violent, non-emergent calls that we have within the city and within the district. Many of you may have seen my post on Instagram the other day. I was out roller skating in Fairmont Park, and it was lovely. Thank you for the new sidewalks in Fairmont Park. I didn't fall once this time, so I feel really proud of myself for that. But while I was there, one of our parks workers who goes by Pops, he's lovely. If you meet Pops, have a conversation with him. He's been working with the city for quite some time, but he mentioned to me that oftentimes, and we've heard this before, that there's some aggressiveness from some of our neighbors that are experiencing homelessness that stay at Fairmont Park. And we've all known this and probably in some ways anecdotally or personally have experienced something. And going back to the alternative response model, I want to make sure that our parks, our communities that are experiencing homelessness are safe, but also obviously the people that are experiencing the park are safe, and that includes our city workers. One of the ideas with the alternative response model is to have park rangers within our parks that aren't police officers. We have kids at the skate park that they maybe just need somebody to tell them to move along, or some, maybe some different responses there that allow us. We've put so many improvements into Fairmont Park that make it just a lovely place to be, that we also need to continue making sure that people feel safe being there in across the spectrum. And so that's one of the other things we were able to do with the budget is really value our first responders and in different ways by increasing their pay scales, looking at different ways that we can compensate adequately, but then also really looking at this alternative response model is something that can work within Salt Lake City. This would also include social workers. We increased our social work program by, let's see, the mayor asked for 6, and I think we increased it by 6 more, so 12. 12 social workers that would do a co-response model with our police officers when there is a mental health call. This has proven to be incredibly successful in de-escalating situations and making sure that something tragic doesn't happen at the end of one of those calls. Again, this may be one of those situations where we put some of those social workers into an alternative response model team, whatever that looks like as we continue to move forward with the pilot program. Trying to think of some other things that I was excited about with the budget. The budget was difficult this year. We're lucky to have money coming in from the federal government through the ARPA funds, the American Recovery Act, to address the things that we've gone through with COVID. And the funny thing is just like, how do you spend $86 million? $86 million sounds like a lot of money until you realize how much we actually need and where do we need to put that. The mayor's office and her team have done a great job in trying to figure that out. We're all working together in really looking at how we can make that, leverage that federal money in the most effective way possible. One of my biggest concerns, and I think this is because of where I live, and I'm grateful to live here, is small businesses and making sure we're supporting small businesses. We've seen too many small businesses not be able to recover from the effects of COVID and what it had on our economy. So I will be looking at making sure that we're supporting local small businesses with those ARPA funding. The Department of Treasury only at, let's see, we're July, they're supposed to come out with, and they may have already finally come out with the final guidelines. As you all may be aware, federal money is very much tied to federal rules. And so only certain things will qualify. We have to make sure that, you know, we have all of the ducks in the row. And so just really working with our departments to make sure that we can utilize that money in the most effective way for all of our communities. One of the other things that I have been pushing for a little while, which I am excited about, is that we did get funding for a new MRT team, and it's the medical response team. Our fire department in Station 1, actually, I don't know if it comes out of Station 1, but downtown they have a medical response team. It's 2 firefighters in an SUV that when we do have those medical calls, and it doesn't seem like it's something that needs the entire engine or the truck, that the medical response team can deploy to that. I've sort of been pushing for funding for this program since I've been on the council, because I think that from lots of different standpoints, it actually really helps our communities from an environmental standpoint, right? Of not taking out an engine or a truck, from an economic standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint. And I'm not sure that everybody loves the idea of it. There are some drawbacks to it, but I do think that it is an important tool to have in our toolbox. So we were able to fund a second MRT. Currently, the only MRT that we have with the fire department goes just downtown in the downtown corridor. So it's sort of just along the kind of Pioneer Park to maybe the public safety building. And I'm sure one of the firefighters or Chief Lee will say, no, it goes further than that, but roughly around those areas. And we've been missing something like that here in the south part of Salt Lake City. So we were able to fund the MRT, and the idea for that is that it will be housed at either Station 6 or Station 8. Station 6 is on the west side by the Smiths. I think it's still a Smiths that's on 9th South and 9th West area. Station 8 is the station that's right by the ballpark. So really needed in those areas. As we continue to see an increase in people camping and experiencing homelessness on our streets, I think that something like this will really come in handy when we're able to implement it. As to Taylor Anderson, it was very good to see you. He used to write for the Trib, and I'd see him all the time in council meetings, and so it's nice to see you sort of in person again. But Taylor was, now I forgot what I was saying because I was talking about you, but I'll come back to that. It was funding, the traffic calming study. As you all may be aware, 2020 seems like it doesn't exist for me. So it was either 2019 or 2020 with one of the our CIP, we did fund the 6th East traffic calming measures right here under the viaduct. Nothing, to my knowledge, has been done with it. But the funding is there for that. And the city is the city council, at least in my opinion, is incredibly dedicated to more traffic calming measures within our city. That was actually one of the first CIP traffic calming things that I had seen come through, and we were lucky to fund. Again, nothing has happened. Everybody is short-staffed. We're working on all of that so that we can actually get some of these projects done that we've funded and that we want done. So switching to CIP, we are having our first public hearing on this year's CIP projects on Tuesday, July 13th. You can find the CIP book online in the city council agenda pages. I'm sure it's on the mayor's pages as well. And if you can't find it, you can email me and Brian and we will send it to you. But I do encourage you. I looked through it. I didn't see any project in District 7 that wasn't recommended for funding. But that was a couple of weeks ago before I kind of took a mental health break after the budget. So I will be going through that again this weekend to look over what projects are being funded and are not being funded and which ones are specific to District 7. But I encourage you to look at both those that were funded and those that were not funded to reach out and let me know where you feel most passionate about a project. And we, like I said, we have our first public hearing. We're doing 2 public hearings on CIP. So our first public hearing is this coming up Tuesday. So you can always show your support or non-support for something at those public hearings. CIP, oh, DI, thank you. I just looked at Landon and remembered. So as many of us have also probably noticed, there has been an encampment sprouting up over at the old DI site. The redevelopment agency does own that property. And my understanding is that the county health department will be doing a camp cleanup there on Friday. After the camp cleanup is done, the RDA will be fencing around the property so that no one can get into there. At this point in time, there's still no plans for that property. Everything's up in the air when you have a piece of property there. But in order to keep the property owners and the people around safe, and including those people who are camping to make sure that they're safe. You know, I do appreciate 100% that we've put out porta potties there and we have an attendant there because everybody has to use the restroom. And I would rather people be able to use a restroom in a sort of sanctioned area than anybody else having to deal with somebody using the restroom in a non-sanctioned area. So I am hoping, and I don't know the answer to this, but I am hoping that we will at least have those porta potties available to people because I think it's just better for the general health and well-being of the community as a whole. But that camp will be cleaned up, in my understanding from Michelle Hoon, who works with our homeless outreach services in the administration, is this Friday. Oh, we are doing a dress rehearsal on next Tuesday. So we are going semi in person for city council meetings. What this means is a dress rehearsal is over the last 18 months, it has become very apparent to me how important access to our council meetings are. And that when you have a council meeting that you only had in person, many people who worked night shifts or couldn't listen in during, couldn't show up to listen into the work session, even if there's Facebook or things like that, that we create a barrier for people to actually access our community council meetings. So as chairperson, it's been very important to me that we continue to have some sort of online presence where people would be able to comment online. This, of course, has created a lot of work for our council staff and SLC TV and IMS in trying to say, how do we have this hybrid idea that we can go back in person and ensure that we're not losing one of the avenues of accessibility to our meetings. So we are calling it our dress rehearsal, where just the council members will be in person. The building itself will still be closed, so no public would be allowed, but it will kind of allow us to work out some of those bugs that we anticipate in a little less stressful environment. We've in 18-ish months, I think we've gotten pretty close, and Landon and the Sugar House Community Council members can attest to this, gotten pretty close to figuring out how to do all of this online. So we kind of have that down, but now as we move to a hybrid situation, it's sort of what's next, right? And maybe it's a can of worms, but it's a very important can of worms for me, because I truly believe in opening every avenue to accessibility as we have possible. And that's something that we were able to do. It's a silver lining of COVID, I think, in some ways. So next week, I won't be here at my house. You don't get to hear my dogs behind me clicking and clacking, my puppy picking on the old guys. We will, council member wise, we will be in person. And then from there on, we're really going to try to work at a hybrid type of council meeting for the future. So I think that I covered it all. I will answer questions in the chat. People are obviously, feel free to text me. And I just want to say thank you as always. Sally, your name came up the other day, and I can't remember where it came up, but it was like all gushing. The person who brought your name up was somebody who had just met you, but was just like enamored with you. And I said, yes, that's Sally. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I was just thinking about it. So anyway, thank you for having me. If there's anything else, let me know.
Thank you. And do you mind answering her question in the chat? I'm gonna have Bess come on for a second. She's not gonna like it, but she needs to. So Bess is leaving Fairmont Aquatic. I just wanted to say thank you for everything. We've had a really good relationship with her since she's been there. It kind of bums me out that she's being moved, but Bess, you there?
Yeah, my phone is my volume, it's my thing. I don't know how to do the screen. Hold on. Can you see me?
No, that's okay though. We just wanted to say thanks. And good luck. And I'll see you on the lacrosse field.
I'll miss you guys. Oh, thank you, Sally and Will and Dana and everybody. And thank you, Judy, for being a part of my wedding so many years ago.
Well, thanks, Bess. We'll keep in contact.
Okay, thank you.
And I think meeting adjourned. So thanks for coming tonight, guys. We'll see you next month.